everybody, welcome to my channel.
Mickey Rourke, a rebel, a fighter, and one of Hollywood's most complex talents. Mickey Rourke remains one of the most fascinating figures in modern cinema, a man whose career has spanned extraordinary heights, dramatic falls, personal reinventions, and unforgettable performances. Known for his brooding intensity, unpredictable charisma, and raw emotional power, Rourke carved out a place in Hollywood as an actor unlike any other. Early life and the road to acting. Born Philip Andre Rourke Jr. on September 16, 1952, in Schenectady, New York. He was raised in a working-class family and spent much of his youth in Miami. Rourke initially devoted his energy to boxing, competing as an amateur during his teenage years. His love for the sport shaped both his physicality and the toughness that would later define many of his acting roles. After suffering multiple injuries in the ring, Rourke shifted his focus to acting. He studied under legendary coach Lee Strasberg, whose mentorship helped refine Rourke's natural talent for emotional vulnerability on screen. Rise to stardom. A 1980s icon. Mickey Rourke's ascent in Hollywood was rapid. He made early impressions with small but memorable roles in Body Heat, 1981, and Diner, 1982. These performances showcased his magnetic screen presence and made critics take notice of a rising star. The 1980s marked the peak of Rourke's early career, with acclaimed roles in Rumble Fish, 1983, as the enigmatic motorcycle boy, the Pope of Greenwich Village, 1984, solidifying his reputation as a modern antihero. 9.5 Weeks, 1986, an international hit that cemented his status as a sex symbol. Angel Heart, 1987, a controversial and haunting performance often regarded as one of his best by the late 1980s. Many saw Rourke as the next Brando, a once-in-a-generation talent with the intensity of a method actor and the mystique of a Hollywood icon. The fall, turbulence, boxing, and career collapse. Despite his immense talent, Rourke often clashed with studio executives, directors, and Hollywood norms. His refusal to play the fame game and his personal struggles began to affect his work. By the early 1990s, Rourke abandoned acting and returned to professional boxing, a decision that resulted in significant physical damage, including facial injuries that required reconstructive surgery. During this period, his once promising career nearly vanished. Roles became scarce, and Rourke found himself far removed from the Hollywood spotlight. The Comeback, a triumphant return in the 2000s. Mickey Rourke staged one of Hollywood's greatest comebacks. His redemption arc began with smaller roles in films like The Rainmaker, 1997, and Once Upon a Time in Mexico, 2003. But it was Sin City, 2005, that reintroduced him to a new generation. His portrayal of Marv, a brutal but strangely noble antihero, earned widespread acclaim and reminded audiences of his extraordinary talent. Then came The Wrestler, 2008, directed by Darren Aronofsky. The film showcased Rourke as Randy, the Ram, Robinson, a washed-up wrestler seeking redemption. The role was deeply personal, reflecting Rourke's own struggles. His performance was universally praised, earning him a Golden Globe Award, a BAFTA Award, and an Academy Award nomination for Best Actor. It became one of the most powerful comeback performances in film history. Later career and legacy. In the years since The Wrestler, Rourke has continued to appear in a variety of roles, including Iron Man 2, 2010, as the villain Whiplash, Immortals, 2011, The Expendables, 2010. Although his output has varied, Rourke remains a beloved figure known for his authenticity, vulnerability, and resistance to Hollywood conformity. A life beyond the screen. Outside of acting, Rourke is known for his love of animals, especially dogs, often crediting them with helping him through the darkest times of his life. He has spoken openly about mental health, personal loss, and his ongoing journey towards self-improvement. Conclusion: Mickey Rourke's story is one of passion, struggle, resilience, and reinvention. From his meteoric rise in the 1980s to his near disappearance and remarkable comeback, he remains one of Hollywood's most unpredictable and compelling figures. More than an actor, Rourke is a survivor, a fighter both in the ring and in life, whose legacy is defined not only by the roles he played but by the obstacles he overcame. A deeper look into Mickey Rourke, the rise, the ruin, and the resurrection of a Hollywood maverick. A troubled childhood that forged a fighter. Mickey Rourke's early years were far from idyllic. After his parents divorced, he and his siblings moved to Florida with their mother. Their stepfather was strict and often abusive, shaping a turbulent environment that pushed young Rourke to seek refuge in sports and street culture. It was during these tough years that Rourke first discovered boxing, a discipline that offered structure, escape, and a sense of personal empowerment. His natural talent quickly became evident. As an amateur boxer, he tallied an impressive record, winning the majority of his bouts and showing promise as a future professional. But repeated concussions and injuries led doctors to advise him to step away. With limited options and a volatile life at home, Rourke turned to a new passion: acting. Becoming an actor, talent, training, and tenacity. Rourke's acting journey began almost by accident. After appearing in school plays and local theater, he left Florida for New York City with just a few $100s and almost no plan. What he did have was determination and a remarkable emotional depth, qualities that immediately caught the attention of famed acting teachers at the Actors Studio. Lee Strasberg, often selective and demanding, praised Rourke as one of the most talented students he'd ever taught. This recognition not only validated Rourke's shift from boxing to acting but also helped open doors into the film industry. Crafting a unique screen persona from the beginning, Mickey Rourke was different. In an era when clean-cut stars dominated the screen, Rourke brought something grittier and more real. He wasn't performing, he was the characters: moody, troubled, seductive, lonely, rebellious. Directors described him as unpredictable yet thrilling. Co-stars spoke about his ability to transform scenes with a single, quiet glance. Critics celebrated his intensity. By the mid-1980s, Rourke had become the quintessential cinematic outsider. Handsome yet haunted, charming yet dangerous, vulnerable yet unreachable, he embodied the archetype of the beautiful rebel, earning comparisons to James Dean and Marlon Brando, yet resisting Hollywood's attempts to mold him. Hollywood's golden rebel. During this period, Rourke delivered a string of performances that shaped his legend. Rumble Fish, 1983, as the enigmatic motorcycle boy, Rourke gave a dreamy, almost poetic performance that captivated audiences. His softly spoken lines and distant gaze turned the character into a cult icon. The Pope of Greenwich Village, 1984, in this gritty New York drama, Rourke effortlessly balanced charisma and vulnerability. Many believe this film contains some of his finest acting. 9.5 Weeks, 1986, starring opposite Kim Basinger, Rourke became a global sensation. The film's erotic intensity, combined with his magnetic presence, solidified his international appeal. Angel Heart, 1987, a seductive neo-noir thriller that showcased the darker corners of Rourke's abilities. His performance was raw, mesmerizing, and fearless. By the end of the decade, Mickey Rourke seemed unstoppable. Self-destruction, defiance, and the fall. However, behind the scenes, Rourke struggled with fame and personal demons. He battled temper issues, clashed with producers, and often walked away from promising roles. His refusal to conform made him respected artistically but difficult to insure and hire. As his Hollywood career faltered, Rourke made a shocking decision. He returned to professional boxing. At nearly 40 years old, he entered the ring again, driven by unresolved anger, identity crises, and a longing for control. Although he won several matches, the damage was severe. His face was disfigured, requiring multiple reconstructive surgeries. Roles dried up, offers disappeared. From international star to Hollywood outcast, Rourke had become almost unrecognizable. The long road back the late 1990s marked Rourke's darkest years. He faced financial ruin, battled depression, and lived in near isolation. Only his close friends and his beloved dogs remained constants in his life. Slowly, he rebuilt. Small roles showed he still had talent. Directors like Tony Scott and Robert Rodriguez believed in him. And then came the role that changed everything. The Wrestler, 2008, a mirror of his own life as Randy, the Ram, Robinson. An aging wrestler struggling with pain, regret, and a longing for acceptance, Rourke poured his soul onto the screen. The film was more than a performance, it was a confession. Critics hailed it as one of the greatest comebacks in cinematic history. His awards included Golden Globe Award for Best Actor, BAFTA Award for Best Actor, Academy Award nomination. Though he narrowly lost the Oscar, many still believe he delivered the best performance that year. Life after the comeback. Since The Wrestler, Rourke has acted in a variety of films, some small, some mainstream, some experimental. His role as Whiplash in Iron Man 2 brought him back into blockbuster territory, while Sin City, 2005, and later films allowed him to explore stylistic, larger-than-life characters. He has continued to battle personal struggles but remains open about his mental health, past mistakes, and lifelong fight to find peace. A complex legacy. Mickey Rourke's legacy is defined not by perfection, but by authenticity. He is a rare Hollywood rebel who never cared about fame, a gifted actor whose emotions spill into every role, a survivor of trauma, fame, failure, and reinvention, a man who lived multiple lives, fighter, star, outcast, icon for many. He represents raw humanity in an industry of polish and illusion. Conclusion. The unbreakable spirit of Mickey Rourke. Mickey Rourke's life reads like a movie, one filled with triumph, catastrophe, heartbreak, violence, redemption, and grace. He remains one of cinema's most unpredictable and captivating figures, admired not only for his talent but for the courage he has shown in surviving his own story. His journey reminds us that greatness isn't always clean or consistent. Sometimes it's messy, painful, and imperfect, yet unforgettable. The Many Faces of Mickey Rourke. Inside the mind of Hollywood's most haunted icon, the actor who felt too deeply at the core of Mickey Rourke's brilliance lies a rare emotional vulnerability. Unlike many actors who rely on technique or posture, Rourke acted from instinct, raw, unfiltered, and painfully real. Directors often said they never knew what Rourke would do in a scene. But whatever it was, it would be unforgettable. He channeled his troubled past into his performances, using his own heartbreak, rage, and longing as fuel. This authenticity made him magnetic on screen, but complicated off it. Rourke once said, "I feel things too strongly. When I hurt, I really hurt." This sensitivity, coupled with an explosive temper, created the duality that defined him, a man capable of profound tenderness and sudden fury. A Hollywood rebel who refused to play the game. What set Rourke apart from other rising stars of the 1980s was his refusal to conform. While contemporaries chased big studio roles, Rourke often turned them down, calling many scripts garbage or beneath him. He reportedly passed on major films such as Platoon, Beverly Hills Cop, Rain Man, Pulp Fiction, 48 Hours. Some he rejected outright, others he lost due to conflicts or reputation. His uncompromising attitude gained him respect among actors but made him a nightmare for studios. Rourke had no interest in Hollywood politics, publicity, or diplomacy. He didn't care about charming executives or cultivating an image. His truth mattered more than his career, and it showed. The 1990s. A decade of chaos. The downfall of Mickey Rourke was not caused by a single event but by a long spiral of poor choices, emotional turmoil, and bad luck. Among the challenges: 1. Broken relationships. His marriage to actress Carey Otis, intense, passionate, and volatile, was filled with allegations, arrests, and tabloid scrutiny. The relationship consumed him emotionally and professionally. 2. Professional clashes. Rourke argued with directors, walked off sets, rewrote scripts without permission, and developed a reputation for being unpredictable. 3. Financial collapse. As work dried up, he lost homes, cars, and savings, eventually sleeping on friends' couches. 4. Self-destructive boxing comeback. His return to boxing was both a cry of defiance and a form of self-punishment. The psychological scars he carried manifested physically in the ring. 5. Reconstructive surgeries. Several surgeries intended to fix damage from boxing left his face nearly unrecognizable. Rourke later admitted, "I went to the wrong guy to put my face back together." It became one of the most visible symbols of his downfall. The unexpected grace of friendship and dogs through all his struggles. A few people remained loyal to him, including actors he had helped early in their careers, old boxing trainers, a handful of directors who admired him, his childhood friends from Miami, but his most constant companions were his beloved dogs. Rourke often said his dogs saved his life during his darkest moments. When he accepted his Golden Globe for The Wrestler, he famously thanked them, saying, "Sometimes when a man's alone, all he's got is his dog." The sincerity of that moment endeared him to millions. The Wrestler, a role written in his blood. Darren Aronofsky initially considered others for the role, but eventually realized that only Mickey Rourke had lived enough life to play Randy, the Ram. Rourke transformed the role from a simple character into a portrait of broken humanity. Every scene carried echoes of his own struggle. A man who once reached great heights, a man whose body had been battered. A man searching for redemption, a man trying to forgive himself. The performance was more than acting. It was a man confronting the ghosts of his past before the world's eyes. What makes Mickey Rourke special? 1. Unmatched emotional honesty. Rourke brought an ache to the screen few actors could replicate. 2. A refusal to compromise. He never wanted to be a polished Hollywood product. 3. The ability to portray beauty and brutality. His characters carried both strength and fragility. 4. A mythic rise-fall-rise narrative. Few actors have fallen so hard, or risen so dramatically. Later career. A man following his own rules after his comeback, Rourke didn't chase perfection. He took roles that interested him, regardless of budget or prestige. Some were critically praised, some forgotten, and some simply expressions of his own eccentric taste. He remained unpredictable, outspoken, fiercely loyal, unapologetically himself in an industry obsessed with image. His authenticity, messy as it is, remains refreshing. The cultural impact of Mickey Rourke. Mickey Rourke is not just an actor, he is a phenomenon. He inspired directors who admired his fearlessness, actors who envied his natural talent, audiences who connected with his broken beauty. His early performances influenced a new generation of actors who sought to emulate his intensity. His return inspired anyone who had ever fallen and hoped to rise again. The man behind the legend today, Mickey Rourke, continues to act, train, and speak openly about depression, loss, regret, forgiveness, survival. He has aged, transformed, struggled, and adapted, but he has never stopped being himself. And that is perhaps his greatest strength. Conclusion. Mickey Rourke's legacy of fire and fragility. Mickey Rourke's life is a reminder that genius and chaos often come intertwined. He is a symbol of resilience, a testament to the power of passion, and an icon of both Hollywood glamour and Hollywood self-destruction. But above all, he is human, deeply flawed, deeply emotional, deeply real. And that is why, decades after his debut, Mickey Rourke remains one of the most unforgettable actors ever to grace the screen. Mickey Rourke, the man who lived several lives in one body, a soul too intense for the world. Some actors portray intensity. Mickey Rourke is intensity. From his earliest days in New York's acting studios, teachers noticed something unusual about him. He seemed to feel the world more sharply than others. Every slight, every disappointment, every betrayal seemed to cut deeper. This hypersensitivity became both his greatest gift and his greatest curse. On camera, it created magic. Off camera, it created chaos. Rourke once said, "Acting is the only place where I can be someone without feeling guilty about being myself." He brought that internal conflict into every role, making his characters feel painfully, beautifully alive. What Mickey Rourke brought to acting that others didn't. 1. Silence as emotion. Rourke mastered the art of saying everything without speaking. A tilt of his head, a long pause, a half smile, those tiny gestures carried enormous emotional power. 2. Sensuality that came from danger, not glamour. Rourke's sensuality wasn't polished or commercial. It was raw, messy, unpredictable, the kind that felt real because it was. 3. The ability to show heartbreak behind bravado. Even at his toughest, his characters radiated an unspoken sadness. The audience always sensed the wound behind the swagger. 4. An authenticity that could not be faked. When Rourke played broken men, he wasn't pretending. He was drawing from a lifetime of scars, physical, emotional, spiritual. The shadow side. Why Hollywood turned against him. Mickey Rourke became one of the most respected actors of his generation, but also one of the most feared. Not because he was violent, but because he was uncontrollable. Hollywood thrives on predictability. Mickey Rourke thrives on the opposite. He didn't like authority. If a director tried to manipulate him, he pushed back. He didn't like scripts he considered false. He would rewrite scenes or refuse to say lines he didn't believe in. He didn't play politics. He never flattered producers, never attended the right parties, never pretended to like people he despised. This made him a legend among actors, and a liability among studios. The psychology of a fighter. Understanding Mickey Rourke requires understanding the psychology of a fighter. 1. Pain becomes normal. Boxers learn to accept pain as part of life. Rourke embraced it, both physically and emotionally. 2. Loneliness becomes a companion. The boxing world is solitary. You train alone, you hurt alone, you triumph alone. Rourke carried this loneliness into his adult life. 3. Self-destruction becomes a temptation. Boxers walk close to the edge of danger. After boxing, Rourke sought that edge in other ways: dangerous roles, volatile relationships, reckless decisions. 4. Pride becomes everything. Rourke's pride kept him from asking for help, even when his career and life were collapsing. Relationships, love, passion, and the cost of desire. Few actors have lived their romantic lives as intensely as Mickey Rourke. Carré Otis, the love that burned too bright. His marriage to model actress Carré Otis is the stuff of Hollywood folklore. Wild passion, fierce loyalty, violent arguments, tabloid scandals, accusations, and reconciliations. It was love as a battlefield, deep, destructive, unforgettable. Loyalty as a moral code to this day. Rourke remains fiercely loyal to people he once loved. He never speaks cruelly of them, even if the relationship ended painfully. The reinvention of a face and a soul after years in the ring. His once iconic face, famous for its beauty, became
Bye bye. Thanks for watching. Bye.